Welcome to CineFiles, everybody, the show where three movie lovers get together. We talk all things film. We're going to show you some of the films that we think you should see and maybe some that we think you shouldn't see. What are we starting with today?
The Wizard of the Kremlin.
Russia needs a new president. He's young, athletic, he's a spy. KGB. Vladimir Putin.
What interests me is power.
All right, this is the new film by Olivier Assayas. He's a French director who's known for political thrillers like Carlos, the 5-hour film about Carlos the Jackal, and Something in the Air about protesters during in France during the 1960s, as well as Wasp Network, the Netflix film about kind of unseating Fidel Castro, or attempting to. This film follows Paul Dano as a kind of czar whisperer who attempts to rise or elevate Vladimir Putin in the Russian politics, I guess. This takes place over the course of about 35 years and crams a whole lot into about 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Sure does.
The original cut was about 2.5 hours, but they shortened it for the US release. I found it engaging. I found it really dense and very well acted by Paul Dano and Jude Law. There's oddities throughout. There are things like, Jude Law and Paul Dano speaking in British accents. Some people speak with Russian accents. Everyone's speaking English for the most part, and when there is Russian, there aren't really subtitles consistently. A lot is happening in this movie, but it's so well written and so well executed that I had a hard time not just enjoying it. That said, I wish it was about 8 hours long in a limited series.
That's fair.
That would have been, something more enjoyable, I think, or had a little bit more room to breathe. This is based on a book, and I was compelled to download the book, and I'll be reading that. But I think this is a good primer for kind of understanding how Vladimir Putin got into power and how manipulating the media and politicians can result in an autocratic leader.
Fair.
What'd you think?
I thought it was average. I really loved the cinematography. I loved that it was being told through like a journalism perspective. Like Paul Dano is telling Jeffrey Wright's character what happened to him. But I just felt like, now that you've said it should be a limited series, that's how I feel. Mm-hmm. It didn't keep me engaged the whole 2 hours and 15 minutes. Some of it I was like, okay, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Come on. But Paul Dano and Jude Law, incredible. I did say to Chris, and I don't know if you agree, or now that you've seen it, if you agree, but that it feels a little bit too on the nose when it comes to like Russian propaganda. Like it almost, even though it's kind of hinting at how Paul Dano's character has manipulated everything, it also feels kind of like there's the prospect of us being manipulated and then viewing Vladimir Putin and Russia in a different light. And they probably didn't intend that. I also felt like Paul Dano's character, while wonderful and wonderfully executed and well written, he is loosely based on a real person, and I would have almost rather had the true story of that person rather than the fictionalized version, so that I could have learned a little bit more.
Sure, that's fair.
I 100% was just going to say what you said. I liked the film because it was dense, it was very smart, and it gave us an introspective view of a Russia that we really don't understand through our own media, right? I thought it was an incredible inside view of what Putin is like, how the big dogs, and how you become autocratic, and how you can control the masses and tip the scales to your side. But what you said is right on point. First of all, I love the fact that you said it should have been a series. I think it would have been a great series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But also, I don't like the concept of it being a semi-fictitious character. I would have preferred it to be a real character. I would have preferred it to be a documentary. Like, I'm interested in the rise of Putin and how that came to be. I'm interested in what motivates him, good, ugly, I did not like the fact that it was fictitious, basically, and I didn't quite believe the fact that just because an American writer, understood him, that he would invite him over to his house and tell him all the secrets of his life and the secrets of the Kremlin.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. and he would know that there'd be consequences for that. So part of it didn't make sense, and some of it was a little over my head culturally, like there was backstory when they were young, and I didn't quite understand why that was there, what we were doing there. But like you said, it was dense, it's good. I think it's definitely worth the watch, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Great, yeah. I would highly recommend checking out other Olivier Assayas movies. He's actually one of my favorite living filmmakers right now. I made a film called Personal Shopper that is outstanding, or Clouds of Sils Maria. And I look forward to every one of his new movies, so I'm a little biased and a little, seeing through rose-tinted glasses on this one, but yeah, highly recommend him.
Do you know anything about the accent? Like, why? He's speaking with like a semi-American, semi-British accent.
Yeah, I think this is part of what you're talking about, like the fictionalization of it and the American accents, is to make it palatable to Western viewers. This movie could have all been, speaking in Russian, but they need, actors would have to learn Russian. And that takes, months to learn or whatever. And so all these things are just building up to make it easier, more palatable for U.S. audiences. Fictionalizing it makes it less of a political statement, I think. Some of the films that we're going to talk about in our next segment have been sort of defactualized a little bit to make them, so the filmmakers can use that guise of like, oh, this is fictional, to say that we're not actually commenting on real life politics.
Comment.
I mean, yes, comment, but I think
sometimes you don't wanna.
Sometimes you can't get investors, I think, if you're using real people, and that's you can shroud this idea of this is fiction, but you're really talking about the truth.
I want Putin's review of this movie.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
I don't think he would like it very much.
I want Putin's review. Yeah, no, he wouldn't. Yeah. All right, would you rate it?
I'd say see it.
Yeah, I would say see it too.
Yeah, I'd say try it. I liked it, but it's not for everybody. All right, that said, we're going to talk about what our top 3 political thrillers of all time are when we come back. All right, after we all saw The Wizard, it triggered us to think of what are our favorite political thrillers. This is a cool genre, a lot of different stuff out there over the decades. I suppose I'll start. I'm not as sophisticated as Jamie or Brian, admittedly, but these movies still stand out to me, and they popped in my head first. My top 3 are JFK. My second is Argo. My third is The Bourne Identity. So JFK for me is something I'd never seen before in that style. The fact that Oliver Stone took, 45 minutes in the final speech of the movie to break down a conspiracy theory that captured the entire world and still does today. The details in that movie, the cast in that movie, the CIA agent, the black agent, whatever they call them, the X or whatever. I don't know, Donald Sutherland. I think it's one of the best movies ever made, frankly, in my opinion, as far as the story being told. It is so detailed, it is so precise, it is so gutsy, right? You want to talk about real people in real positions. It was like a culture-changing movie. And so that was my favorite. Argo captured me from front to end. I thought it was like probably Ben Affleck's greatest work about a real story, a fascinating piece of history. And I love when we get into big moments, big cultural changing moments in history, and you find a little story in it that no one seemed to know about, that captures everybody, like a secret coming out. So that was a great one for me. And The Bourne Identity, for me, changed action movies. It was one of those that changed political action movies. I guess you want to call it that. It was smart. It gave you a behind-the-scenes look at the CIA, at what happens in these top echelon, top secret military programs, and it kept me in my seat the whole way. Thought it was great. Those are my top 3.
Fair enough.
All right.
Do you want to go?
Sure. My number 3 is Z from 1969. This is a film by Costa Gavras. He is a Greek-French filmmaker, and similar to The Wizard of the Kremlin, it's based on a real story, but it is a fictionalization of it. So it's about an assassination of kind of a left-leaning leader in an unnamed Mediterranean country that is basically Greece. And Yev Montan plays that leader, and Jean-Louis Trintignant is the investigator who's looking into his assassination. Looks like a car accident, but it's really this elaborate plot to assassinate him. One of the greatest political thrillers ever made. Costa Gavras constantly made political thrillers about real-life subjects, but fictionalized them in a way that made them seemed like they weren't preaching to the audience.
Same kind of deal as The Wizard.
Yeah. Next up is The Manchurian Candidate. This is a scandalous movie that was made in the 1960s, released around the time of JFK's assassination, and involves Korean War vets who are being brainwashed to be assassins, and an elaborate plot to install the next president with the help of assassins. Fascinating movie, really odd movie, made by John Frankenheimer and stars Frank Sinatra, and an outstanding performance by Angela Lansbury as kind of the villain of the piece.
Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
And not only has that been redone, but now as the release of all these top secret files, that kind of stuff actually happens.
Yeah, it was no joke,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was actual brainwashing attempted, yeah.
That's when Charlie Manson was brainwashed as LSD from the CIA, like all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, Operation Ultra.
Yeah,
Agent
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, yeah.
Anyway.
Last but not least is Blowout. This is maybe one of my favorite films, period.
This is about the humpback whale, right?
No, and it's not about diarrhea either. It's about, sorry, that's a crass joke.
Baby diarrhea.
Right. It is a Brian De Palma film about a B-movie sound man played by John Travolta, who is out recording sound for his next kind of schlocky horror movie, and witnesses basically a Chappaquiddick-like accident where a woman and a politician are in a car, and the politician dies. And as he pieces together the sound as well as some images, he realizes that there's a conspiracy. The conspiracy involves a psycho killer played by John Lithgow, who is
he's such a good psycho killer.
Outstanding
Dexter,
here. Yeah, he's great. Just one of the most twisty movies that you'll see. It's also just a brilliant piece on the power of filmmaking and how that can be manipulated. Outstanding movie, one of my favorites of all time.
It's kind of the plot of the Pelican Brief, isn't it, too? Where someone witnesses or has a piece of film of like a scandalous political murder or something like that.
I don't remember the Pelican Brief very well.
I've not seen it. So
Anyway,
I have no idea.
good list. I'll have to check. I haven't seen the Z or Blowout, so I'll have to check both those out.
Nice. You guys went 1, 2, 3, not 3, 2, 1, right?
I went 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my first one is Zero Dark 30, which is probably more action,
No,
military
it's
than
good.
political thriller, but I felt like it probably
Yeah.
constituted.
Yeah.
It was on the TV last night.
Was it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I stopped by for a while.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really like that, actually, with a couple of the films that I'm going to talk about, it's anxiety inducing because it puts you in the situation that it's explaining. It does lean, I think, a little bit, depending on who's watching it, like it could be propaganda, like the US is the bad guy once we got Osama bin Laden. But I liked the night vision, the intensity of it, the trying to let the people into the lives of the soldiers and the high stakes and the way that they had to maneuver in trying to get Osama bin Laden.
And the way that it validated torture in a way that you never really see on film.
Yeah.
Right? That was an interesting part of that movie.
It was.
Yeah.
And I just really love John Krasinski. He's fun.
Yeah, he's good.
So,
I don't remember him being in that.
isn't he the main character?
No.
Are you sure?
From The Office?
No, he's 13 Hours. Just kidding.
That's another one.
Yeah.
That's the one from
But-
Syria. Libya.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, Zero Dark 30, I like the anxiety, I like the intensity, and that's actually why it's number 3 on my list, but The Hunt for Red October is on this list.
Nicely done.
Love it. Yeah.
I am going to briefly mention All the President's Men, because again, true story,
Yep.
incredible actors, incredible storytelling, everything about it, incredible.
Yep.
But The
I have
Hunt-
to see
I'm shocked you didn't pick it.
I
Yeah,
got too much.
actually, so
I've been
was
a
I.
journalist 20 years. I just couldn't pick a journalism movie.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Too much cold calling. But good movie.
That's fair. Have you seen Spotlight?
Yeah, Spotlight's
Okay,
great too.
Yeah.
Great.
The cold calling, the door knocking. It's,
Dude, we see Spotlight
Crazy.
in our I-team right here.
oh,
like every day.
absolutely.
It's real. It's all real.
But The Hunt for Red October, I liked the fictionalization of real life scenarios. I liked the anxiety and the intensity.
Heck yeah.
The military aspect of like a cat and mouse. We've lost the submarine. How are we going to find it? This guy may have like gone off on his own and betrayed us. Let's find him. And is it Jack Ryan or?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Ryan is the only person that really understands this guy and is going to be able to catch him. And I like the idea of someone being that smart and that perceptive of other people to be able to figure out what their next move might be.
And you got what? You got Alec Baldwin, you got Sean Connery, and Harry.
Yeah. Viggo Mortensen, I think, is in that.
Viggo's in that one?
Or am I thinking of Crimson Tide? Maybe I'm thinking of
Crimson Tide, that's with Hackman and Denzel.
Sam Neill's in Hunt for Red October.
Yeah. Great movies, great movies.
Yeah.
All right, good call.
Yeah.
Way to
great
go.
list.
All right, so coming up next is we're about to get real dirty. All right? There is some controversy over the last CineGift, and we have very differing opinions on this. I can't even preview what's going to happen. Just hang on for a second. Welcome back. It is CineGift time.
All I can say is I'm sorry. I warned you. Brian said it was going to be vomit-inducing. However,
you said some people, that was the review.
I am going to take full responsibility for assigning this to everyone. I had not seen it before.
Really?
Correct.
Oh, thank God.
Because someone in the newsroom said, I want you to assign this to Chris and Brian.
Who?
Joe Keyport. Because I want to know Chris's reaction. It's body horror, it's comedy-ish, it's gross.
I don't think it's body horror.
It's kind of. Like,
body horror is accurate,
the premise is Ronnie...
There's a premise?
Yes, believe it or not. Ronnie runs a walking tour, a disco walking tour with his son.
There are no free drinks.
Correct, even though it says that there are. And his son meets a girl on this walking tour, goes on some dates, then it's a competition for their love while also like having a Greasy Strangler running around at night killing people. I don't know, but Chris has some thoughts, and so we'll just start with you, I think.
All right, fine. The Greasy Strangler is the absolute most grotesque, poorly written, worst acted, vomit-inducing story ever put on film, in my opinion. It is a D-level porno met with the Chainsaw Massacre and had an incestuous rager party at an insane asylum with John Wayne Gacy inside of a deep fryer with vomit and gravy. That's like how I felt. Like that was the painting I would paint. It mocks murder, it gargles gravy and bile, eats eyeballs, and hangs a misshapen conical wang for shock value. A psycho nightmare. I cannot conceive the meeting where a financier said, I would love to invest in the script and the actors and the special effects. The film created a new genre that I call nausea. After watching it, I literally opened the Bible. I understand why Jamie recommended it.
I'm just like laughing over top of you talking, but Brian knows your thoughts, I don't, and
I will never forgive myself for following through and watching it from end to end, choking back literal nausea. The only meta storyline that I can muster came from the end. It is the fact that it is the demolition of the soul when one commits all the deadly sins. Sloth, they sit in their underwear all day together. Wrath, they murder and seek revenge. Envy, a father and son become jealous of each other for a woman's desire. Pride, there's the Disco King stories and all these fake stories that the dad tells. Lust, disgusting. Gluttony, he eats greasy grease on everything. Oil and grease. Grease is on everything.
Yeah, it's gross.
He dunks himself in grease. Greed is the only thing I can't fit in. There doesn't seem to be greed there. But after the son sinks into all these sins, at the end he makes a decision for which his father amply shows him the way, and they together devolve into grease-covered cavemen, grunting with spears at impending danger at the end. It looks like a de-evolution of the soul, aka hell, which is where my mind has been ever since.
So you touched on a couple things there that I'd like to address. First of all, you called it pornographic. I don't think it's trying to be pornographic. I think it's pornographic.
I have 9 examples of pornography.
I mean, there's a representation of sex, but it's not trying to be sexy. It's not trying to turn you on. That's not the definition of porno. I think it's this. You called it nausea, but I think this type of movie is, you could call it bad taste cinema, you could call it filth, but those are terms used by John Waters or like trauma entertainment, where they are intentionally trying to offend people who have certain sensibilities that are offendable, namely you. You had the reaction
That they wanted. Absolutely.
People like, who are prepared for this and just want to see where the boundary is. That's kind of the point of this. Is here's the boundary. Let's go over it and just see what we can get away with.
The only thing where I saw what you're talking about was when he would choke people and they would sort of make fun of dying, like, oh, it feels good, and then, oh, I'm dead. Like, that's where I'm like, oh, that's the joke. But other than that, why is he brushing his teeth naked with the girl sitting on the jump?
Because that's gross and that's funny and that's I don't like this movie. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are some bad taste movies that I enjoy and that are fun, Toxic Avenger or Pink Flamingos, whatever. But I didn't really care for this movie. I think the music is great.
I love the music.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I love. I like the music.
But,
I'll give you that.
And there was like one part where I laughed out loud, and a lot of it.
What part?
The same part that I laughed out loud in.
It's when the son is having sex with his girlfriend for the first time, and he just keeps shouting, "Am I doing it right? Am I doing it right?" Like, with a level of panic in his voice that is hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, it's a disgusting movie that you're having the reaction that I think deep down filmmakers like this hope for. Yeah.
Why do they hope for it?
Because they want to transgress normal boundaries.
No, it's like exploitative and vile.
It's not exploitative in the sense that, like,
they choked her and her eyeballs came out and they ate them?
Yeah, but they're in on that joke.
That's funny.
Like, nothing is meant in earnest.
They ate her eyes.
I know, but yes, they did eat
They
her
also
eyes.
covered themselves in grease.
Yeah.
Why? Why? What was that about?
Because they're just they're just thinking of the most vile things that they can think of.
That's so gross.
People have this reaction.
It was so gross, dude.
I
don't hate him. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
I texted Joe 20 minutes into this movie and I said, I think I hate you.
Yes,
because
thank you.
I was like, what am I watching? I know that I assigned this, but what am I watching? But I said to Brian, I think because this came out at Sundance in 2016 and people walked out of it, if I was sitting in the library or whatever midnight theater it premiered in with a group of people watching it, all reacting at the same time, I probably would have had the best time.
Maybe.
But
I could see that.
Sitting on my couch, I was like, knock it off. Why are they naked?
Yeah.
Why are they covered in grease? What is happening? Make it stop.
The worst way to watch this is at home alone.
Yeah.
Like, get some friends, be under the influence and watch this movie, but don't watch it alone at home by yourself.
It stayed in my head.
I believe
it
that.
stayed in my head until like now.
Literally, I told Brian this before we started recording. I texted my group chat with some of my friends. I said, this movie is exactly your guys' type of movie. Have any of you watched it? And one of them said, how would you think so little of me? And then was like, Jamie doesn't respect us. Let's beat her up.
Yeah.
And I was like, only if you give me a concussion so I can forget that I ever watched this movie, please. Like, I am judging Elijah Wood so much because
he's in on this?
He's a producer,
yeah.
And he said,
oh, come on,
and
man.
I quote, this is exactly my type of movie. And I was like, I don't
Lord of the
know.
Rings will never be the same now.
I'm judging
Poor
you.
Frodo.
I'm sorry.
I mean, the director of Lord of the Rings started in movies like this. He made a movie called Meet the Feebles and a movie literally called Bad Taste.
Okay, but is it like this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yeah. They are disgusting, super violent, but they're comedies. It's all about what you can get away with, and
that's the thing here. I think,
but it wasn't even funny.
I think
you're a BS artist. You're a BS artist.
Yeah,
you're
why do they
BS
keep
artist.
saying
You're a
that?
BS artist. You're a horse.
But like, what?
Terrible. Angry.
I think misconstrue the line of what's gross and funny and what's just plain gross.
I get it. I get it. It's like a
don't know.
Marilyn Manson video. It's like I understand it. Okay, I get it. Not for me.
yeah,
Fair.
that's fair.
Not for me.
Chris would have walked out on it.
But actually, can we just before we go? Can we just find out? Tell me what you think about the ending when they're running around together and then they shoot them and they're persecuted or whatever.
I mean, if you're looking for a theme, I think it's that sons learn from their fathers and bad behavior is passed down, and this, I think in the end, it's a critique of all of this behavior. They're like you said, they're cavemen who are just running around the fields grunting and doing God knows what with each other.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I threw my hands up and I was like, whatever, you guys do you.
That's the only part I appreciated was like, oh, meaning. oh, maybe they are trying to tell an arc here.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Fair.
Like a cigarette in a bowling shoe.
Anyway,
Ugh.
I believe it's your
With
turn
butter on
to.
All right, I had no
screw us
idea what
up.
to do here for a CineGift, but I saw a clip of it on social media recently and it reminded me how good of a movie this is. I'm going to assign True Romance.
Okay.
This is like Quentin Tarantino's first writing debut, I believe.
Not his first one, but
one of them?
An early Quentin Tarantino.
It's not Reservoir Dogs, but it's True Romance, starring Christian Slater and Dennis Hopper and others. Anyway, we'll check it out, see how I think revisiting it.
Much better theme.
Where can they find you, man? Whew.
You can find me on deepfocusreview.com, or I'm on Letterboxd at Deep Focus Review, as well as Blue Sky.
KARE11.com, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Letterboxd, everything's at It's Jamie Fool.
KARE11 in the plus. Thanks for watching CineFiles, everybody. We'll see you next time.